Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to the GSL-English Podcast, a podcast designed to help you speak more natural, fluent, and confident English. My name is, of course, Gideon, and thank you so much for joining me again, if you are a returning viewer or listener. But if you are new here and stumbled across this podcast on Spotify or on YouTube, then you are most definitely welcome. As I said, my name is Gideon. It's an absolute pleasure to meet you. Please do introduce yourselves in the comments. I would love to know who you are and where you are watching from. And you join me today, well, at the time that this is going out on a Sunday morning at 10 o'clock, actually on a beautiful Thursday evening here in England. Yes, you will be watching and consuming this podcast on a Sunday morning, as always, at 10 o'clock in the morning. But at the time of recording, it is a glorious Thursday evening. I would go even as far to say that it's a little bit hot, which is brilliant. That's what we've been asking for. As British people, we have been asking for a little bit of summer, and we got it today. It's currently 31 degrees and about 8 o'clock in the evening. So we're doing very well. My cabin is actually unbelievably hot. So if you're watching on YouTube, you'll know that I am in a cabin, which is brilliant in winter because it's insulated. So it keeps the cold out and the heat in. But in summer, it just turns into basically a sauna. So I'm getting hotter and hotter as we go today. And of course, I'm finishing off my day recording this podcast. So yeah, it's had all day to warm up. So there we go. Look at me, a true Brit, complaining about some weather that we have been asking for. Would I be a British man without doing that? But yeah, thank you so much for joining me again. As always, you know, if you feel like it, pause this video, grab yourself a cup of tea or a coffee, or if you are watching it later in the day or a year later from now and it's the evening time, grab yourself something a little bit more fancy if you would like to. Now, I did actually make myself a cup of tea for this episode, but I've just realised I've left it in the kitchen. I thought, you know, what a hypocrite. I encourage you to have a cup of tea, but I don't ever have one myself. So I have made one, but I've just realised that I've left it in the kitchen. And yes, there is part of me that could go and get it. I do agree, but I'm quite lazy. So no, the cup of tea will just go cold, I'm afraid. So what are we going to talk about in this week's episode? Well, we're going to have a good old-fashioned catch-up, okay? We're going to have a natter, a chit-chat together. So we're going to talk about something that has recently come back into my life, which I'm very happy about. I'm going to talk about comfort zones a little bit. They're quite interesting, aren't they? Comfort zones. We're going to talk about mini golf, one of my new-found hobbies that I absolutely love. And we're going to talk about seaside towns in England. Okay, so it's a more relaxed podcast this week. We're not going to read an article or a story. We're just going to talk about some random things. And as we go through, hopefully you will learn some new vocabulary, learn some new expressions, but also learn some more about British and particularly English culture. So, first thing we're going to talk about, as I said, is something that has recently come back into my life, and I'm ecstatic about it. To be ecstatic means to be extremely happy, overjoyed. I've been waiting for this thing to come back into my life for probably, coming up 5.5, 6 years. And that is a drum kit. Now, many of you will know that I'm a drummer. You know, if you are, I say many of you, acting like this podcast is massive. It's not massive, but we're getting there. But we do have some loyal viewers and listeners. So if you are a loyal viewer and listener and you've watched my podcast before, you will know that I'm a drummer. I've been playing drums since I was about 15. But I moved countries for a while, and when I was moving countries, I sold everything, including my drum kit, which is really one of the biggest regrets of my life. I should not have sold my drum kit. It was a mistake. And I think about it a lot. And ever since then, I've never had a drum kit in my life. But I'll be honest with you, every week I've wanted to play the drums. And I recently got hold of a drum kit again. The itch was filled, meaning that if you have an itch to do something, you need to do it. You want to do it. I had an itch, to play drums, probably a little bit stronger than an itch. It was a need, and it finally happened. Talking to a friend of mine, we're talking about music. And I said, I'm desperate to play the drums. I want to get a drum kit, but I just can't find one within a reasonable budget. And he said, Gid, I've got a drum kit. Don't worry about it. You can borrow it for as long as you want. I never play it. And there it is. So if you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen that it is a bright blue drum kit. It's a little bit dated, but it does the job and it sounds great. But I am very rusty. If we are rusty at something, we're not as good as we should be. If you think of a pair of scissors, okay, and you left them outside in the water and they go rusty, what are they like to use? They're quite difficult, aren't they? Maybe they creak as you open them, and then it's difficult to open and close and use them. It takes a bit of oiling up, doesn't it? It takes a bit of greasing up for those scissors are ready to be used as they used to be. Well, that's where I am with the drums right now. I'm rusty. I need to oil up the joints, but we're getting there. And when I posted this on social media, it was interesting because many of you asked me, what made you start to play the drums? What made you want to play the drums? And I thought, what an interesting question. And it took me a little bit of thinking. So I thought I would answer it very briefly in the podcast. Bear with me here, just a little bit of story time. But yeah, so I actually started playing the drums when I was about 14 years old. My first instrument was actually the saxophone. My granddad was a saxophonist, somebody that plays the saxophone. And actually, he played saxophone for Nat King Cole. Amazing. He toured with Nat King Cole around England. There's pictures of him playing at the Royal Albert Hall. It's something that I'm really proud of in my family. And he used to play saxophone. So I thought, I need to continue the legacy, the heritage. So I learned to play saxophone. I had lessons at school. And I really enjoyed it. But then once I got to about 13 or 14, I used to get laughed at a little bit at school, for carrying this big brown case with a saxophone in it. It wasn't a cool case. It was a really old saxophone with a really old case. And I thought, this isn't cool. Those stupid decisions you make when you're a teenager purely because of you're worried of people's opinion of you. So I said, no, I've got to stop playing the saxophone. So I did, unfortunately. And then I thought, I'm going to play the drums. So I had to go on the drum kit at school and I absolutely fell in love with it. I just loved the freedom on the drum kit, the simplicity that you could play with if you wanted to, or as the complexity that some drummers are able to produce. And I was just hooked on it. Absolutely hooked. So very kindly, my parents bought me a drum kit and that was it. I was absolutely hooked. So me and my friends, started off with a little band and then we got quite good. Over the years we got good. I must say so. We were quite impressive. I think there are some videos somewhere of us playing, but you will never see them. And then we got into playing gigs. Not a lot of gigs, but we played a few gigs, which was quite a difficult thing for me, but I'm so pleased I did it because it leads us on to our next topic, and that is comfort zones. Because playing music for yourself, maybe you do this, maybe you relate to it. Learning an instrument for yourself is quite a beautiful thing, and it's something that stays with you throughout your life, whether that is guitar, whether that is bass, whether that is your own natural musical instrument, singing, learning to play an instrument or learning to do anything musical is something that you really connect with and stays with you throughout your life. And for me, learning drums on my own, it was like I had this connection with the drums and I absolutely loved it. My friends and my brother was in the band and they said, no, we want to play some gigs. And I was like, nope, not a chance. I'm not good enough to play in front of people. What if I make a mistake? What if people laugh at me? What if I do it wrong? What if, all of these what ifs. So I didn't want to do it. But I ended up doing it. We played a few gigs. And I pushed myself out of my comfort zone. And it actually really helped me. Because after that, I thought, this is actually really cool. Okay, in the first gig, I did make some mistakes. I remember, I think I was only 17 or 18. Actually, I should probably just clarify what I mean by a gig. A gig is like a small concert or a small, I say a concert. I think the most people we played to is about 100 people. So that's a gig, often in a pub. Kind of you're playing as a band, but you're stuck in the corner, really tight, but a great atmosphere. I loved it. So that is what a gig is. But yeah, that pushing myself out of my comfort zone really taught me about life. You've got to push yourself out of your comfort zones. And even that's what I did with this podcast, push myself out of my comfort zone to give it a go. And now I absolutely love it. And the reason I'm talking about that or saying that is because that really translates to English. And I know a lot of teachers say, no, you've just got to go for it. Push yourself out of your comfort zones. And they go on about it. But there's a reason. Yeah, you're going to make mistakes. You're not always going to get it right. Just like drumming in a gig. You make mistakes. There is no perfect gig. You will miss some beats there or a little bit off time here, but it's okay. But the worst thing you can do when you're in a gig and you're drumming, you make a little mistake, is focus on it. Because as soon as you focus on that mistake, more mistakes come, and then you kind of stiffen up, you lock up, and it's just really difficult to get out of that place. And that really does translate to speaking English. You're going to make mistakes. We are going to make mistakes. Native speakers, advanced, intermediate, beginner, whatever. You're going to make mistakes. The worst thing we can do is focus on them. Because once we focus on that mistake, it stays with us. We stiffen up and we lock up. And then our speaking skills really aren't what they could be. And that's what happens. It's okay. So, I just wanted to put that across. If you can, push yourself out of your comfort zone when speaking English. Now, we all have different levels of comfort zone. For some, that comfort zone, they've pushed it so far that their next place is, speaking in front of 50 or 100 people. But generally speaking, for others, that is conversation with one person or in a group of people, adding something to the conversation. Okay, you might make a mistake, but that's okay. It really doesn't matter. But what you will gain is confidence and experience, and they cannot be undervalued when you're learning a language. Confidence and experience, because each time it just grows a little bit more. Okay, sometimes you make a bit of a bigger mistake and then it goes down a little bit, but you just keep on going. And then what happens is that comfort zone just expands and gets bigger and bigger. And it'll always be there. It will change from time to time, but all of those situations that you feel comfortable speaking in expand, and there's so many more of them. And I guess we can apply that to many different things in life, but we don't need to stay within our comfort zone. If you can, really do try and push yourself. Maybe right now you can think of a way that you could push your English. Maybe it's trying to use some idioms, some new idioms if you're an advanced learner, or some new phrasal verbs, or maybe trying to push yourself out of your comfort zone when it comes to vocabulary. Maybe you think, I want to start using some more advanced vocabulary, but I'm scared, what if I get it wrong? Don't worry about it. Just go for it. Give it a try. Or maybe you think, I want to speak for longer. I've noticed that when we're learning a language, often when I try and speak in Spanish, I try and speak in as shorter sentences as possible. And at the moment, I'm kind of stuck in that comfort zone, short, snappy sentences that leave less room for error. A great way of getting out of your comfort zone: start trying to speak in longer sentences. Express yourself more, from the heart. Don't worry about it too much. But you get the idea. Comfort zones are, it's good to be comfortable, but as long as we keep expanding that comfort zone. So there you go. That's a little story of mine, and then what I feel about comfort zones. I hope that did make sense. Just keep pushing yourself. Don't worry about mistakes and don't focus on them. Now, I've just noticed my lamp here. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're not watching on YouTube, I have a lamp. If you're listening on Spotify, this lamp here. I spent probably 15 minutes before this video trying to get this lamp straight. And I've just noticed it's wonky. And that is infuriating. Something that makes us really annoyed or angry. I'm annoyed about this. It was straight, and I spent so long trying to straighten it up. So if you are the kind of person that hates things that are off angle or not quite straight, I'm really sorry. But I don't dare get up and change it because, or try and fix it because I won't, clearly. I spent long enough trying to do it before, but I apologise for that. It's not good enough, not very professional. So, the next thing we're going to talk about. Now, I always try and find a link between topics, between things that we are going to talk about. I always try and find some kind of link. But I have none for this next point. So we're literally just going to transition, to the next point. So imagine a little, the last point is gone. Now we're into the new point, which is one of my new found obsessions. And I absolutely love it. And I know it's sad, but I don't care. And that is mini golf. Oh, I love it. My wife and I have just got this thing about mini golf. So mini golf is, I'm sure most of you know, but mini golf is, you go somewhere often, they're just like, I don't know where you normally get them, but seasides or shopping centres or things like that. And it's just mini golf. You have a little putter and a ball, and you've got to get the ball in the hole. It's really simple. Some of them are crazy. You get crazy golf where you've got to loop the ball round 5 times and then send it into space and then get it in the hole. But I like a good old standard mini golf. And this kind of actually came from, we were in Italy last year for quite a while. And we were driving around and everything was shut. We were looking for somewhere to go, something to do, and everything was shut. But there was a beautiful lake where we were in Italy called Lake Orta. I'm sorry about the pronunciation. Oh, that was awful, but I do apologise. So I'm just going to try and say it in a terrible English way. Lake Orta, O-R-T-A. Beautiful place in Italy. Highly recommend it. But everything was shut when we went. But at the top, very top, looking over on the lake, there was this mini golf course. And it was open. So I said to my wife, hey, you fancy a game of mini golf? And she said, yeah, all right, let's have a game of mini golf. So we did. So we went and got it. Whole thing to ourselves. And we had so much fun. I don't know, maybe it's just one of those things, spontaneous activities, not planned. But we had so much fun. So much so that 3 nights later, sitting there, the weather was nice. We're in Italy in summer. And my wife goes to me, hey, kid, do you fancy playing mini golf? I said, yeah, you don't have to ask me twice. So we went and played mini golf again on the way and grabbed a little bottle of wine, just to enjoy while we were playing. And it was great. But ever since then, we now have this thing that wherever we go, we try and find mini golf courses or mini golf places. And it's kind of become a really sad but beautiful thing. And I absolutely love it. And we don't take it seriously. Well, I say that. Last time I lost and I was quite a sore loser. I didn't take it well because it wasn't a deserved loss. I played so well, but had one terrible hole where I think my shots went up to like 10. Kept getting it in the water. So I did lose. A little bit bitter about it. It took me a while to get over it. But so yeah, everywhere we go now, we kind of just look for mini golf. And it's just a nice thing. I don't know if you have anything like that, which, other people might not understand. But for you, it's just something you do with your family or on your own or with your partner, whatever it is. Ours now is mini golf. And we're going to play on Sunday. So I don't think the weather's going to be as good as it is today. But we're going to play mini golf on Sunday at a seaside town called Hastings. Now, seaside towns in England are an incredible thing because we really try to enjoy them all year round. Okay, as British, we're stubborn. Whether the weather is good or whether the weather is bad. Well, we're going to go and enjoy a seaside town. So there's some of my favourites, particularly in the southeast of England. I'm going to list off some seaside towns that I like to go to and just talk about them a little bit. So the first one, as I said, we've got Hastings. Now, Hastings is a cool seaside town. I like it. Really nice atmosphere. It's a pebbly beach. You've got pebbles. So it's not sand. And there's loads of things to do. There's a little fun fair, a couple of dodgy rides that I'd be very careful about going on. There's shops. And of course, there's mini golf. There's 2 mini golf courses. Then you have Folkestone. Maybe you've heard of Folkestone. This is more of a bit more classy. The seaside town is absolutely beautiful. And one thing I love about Folkestone is you have this pier that goes all the way. And then when we went last time, you can walk down the pier and there's just stuff going on. There's people doing things. There was this brilliant rockabilly band. Everyone was dancing, having a great time. We stopped, we had a drink and just watched everyone having fun. And that kind of thing is happening in Folkestone all the time. So I recommend that. You've got a few others. Whitstable, really lovely seaside town. Whitstable. Not as much going on. So if you want a more relaxed seaside town, I recommend that. Got Margate. At Margate now, there's a place called Dreamland, which has been there for years. Kind of like a small amusement park. But at the back of that now, they hold concerts, with quite big bands that play there. So that's one to check out. And also, of course, you've got the very, very famous Brighton, which in summer is buzzing. There's loads to do. Great atmosphere. People playing music, skateboarding. Real variety of personalities down there, different styles of dress and people and everything. So yeah, if you want a good hubbub, good atmosphere, head down to Brighton. So I thought, seaside towns I do feel are quite unique to England. I do feel like they're quite, unique to English life. And so we're going to talk about them a little bit. So the first one is a lot of seaside towns have pebble beaches. And if you watched, I think it was a few weeks back now, I had a podcast talking about collecting pebbles. It was a poem that I absolutely love. And this is something we do in England. We collect pebbles on the beach, and it's a really beautiful thing to do. As a family, you kind of just look for your favourite pebbles. Just something small. And then you show them. Oh, it's great. But yeah, watch that podcast if you haven't done so already. But another great thing I like to do, which you probably do as well, is you find a nice flat stone or a pebble and you skim it across the sea. So that's one thing. If you go to a seaside town, often they're going to be pebbly beaches, but they're still comfortable and nice. But there is an enemy. Seagulls. Seagulls are the seaside town enemy. I try to like all animals. I am an animal lover. I'm just going to check the battery on my computer. Ooh, okay. I had a little notification come up that my battery was going, but I think we'll be all right. Okay. Yeah, seagulls, seaside town enemy. I've had many an ice cream, a donut, or any kind of, or a chip. They love chips, stolen from me by seagulls. And let me tell you, they do not hold back. I don't know if you've been victim to a seagull attack. If you've seen them, I'm very sorry if you have. But they're vicious. They spot you, they come for you, and they just swoop down and steal whatever you're eating. Seagull is the bird. They're in Finding Nemo, you know, the ones that go, mine, those, they're seagulls. But yeah, so they are a problem. I've had many, we get ice creams in England. We call them Mr. Whippies or 99s because they used to be 99p, but now they're about £2.50. And seagulls love to come down and just swoop and steal your ice cream. And it's a day ruiner. Fun for the whole family to watch, as long as it's not you. As long as it's not you, as long as they're not stealing your chips or your ice cream. But yeah, seagulls are the enemy when it comes to seaside towns. And of course, the next thing, what would a seaside town be without fish and chips? And there's nothing quite like getting fish and chips at the seaside, sitting on the beach, no matter what the weather is. It's nice on a sunny day, but if it's a little bit chilly and you're wrapped up, you get your fish and chips in your newspaper, covered in vinegar and salt, and it's just so nice. And I don't know whether that's just because it's what I grew up on here in England, in the southeast of England. My family, we'd just for a day out, we'd go down to the seaside, grab some fish and chips, sit on the beach or the back of the car, look at the sea, and just eat it and enjoy it together. Then go collect some pebbles, skim some stones, come home nice and tired. So I don't know if it's just nostalgia, but it's such a nice experience, and I do encourage you to do it. If you come to England and go to the seaside, just enjoy some fish and chips on the beach, in some newspaper, cover them in vinegar, and just enjoy it. There's also the sugary snack called rock. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but it's like a stick of sugar, basically, of a sweet. It's solid, but often what you do is you buy it, so it comes in like very thin cylinder kind of style. If you Google it, rock, R-O-C-K, you'll see it. Or is it spelled differently? I'm not sure. I'll have to check that. But often inside of it, it will have a little kind of writing of where you were at. So if you're at Hastings Beach, often it will have Hastings written in it, Folkestone written in it, and so on and so forth. So that's something that you can always get at seaside town, is rock. Don't bite into it because you'll break your teeth. Solid, but you just kind of suck on it and enjoy it throughout the day. Sunburn is another thing you'll see at seaside towns, because as soon as the sun's out, us Brits, we don't care. T-shirts off. Who needs sun cream? Don't care. Then at the end of the day, you see a lot of people walking back to their cars like lobsters. Red. I've done this. I've been foolish. Not as much as I'm getting older now. Getting a bit more boring and more practical, as you do as you get older. But yeah, sunburn is real. You'll see a lot of that. But seaside town, if you do come to England, I would encourage you just to get to the seaside if it's a nice afternoon, and just soak up the atmosphere. Like a sponge. Just enjoy the atmosphere. Take it in. Just relax and just walk around. There's some great little shops. If that's your thing, you can look in. Just little trinket shops with little things. And it's just a really nice family day out. So that's one thing I recommend. Definitely. Is for you to visit seaside. If you can. If you can. Maybe you're in England at the moment. So let me know if you have visited any particular places, any particular seaside towns that you really, really do like. As I say, some of my favourites: Hastings, Broadstairs, Folkestone, Whitstable, and Margate. So there you go. That was just a bit of a random natter for this week's episode. I know many of you seem to enjoy just the random chats where I just talk about things that kind of come up over the last week. So I hope you did enjoy that. As always, if you have any suggestions or anything you would like me to go through, please let me know. Let me know in the comments. But of course, always you can send me an email, GSL-English1@gmail.com. I'm here to help. I want to create episodes for you. I want to create episodes that you can enjoy. So if you've got any suggestions, please do let me know. But I just wanted to conclude with that idea of, not worrying so much with your English. And I know this is kind of a repeated mantra, but please don't worry so much about making mistakes. Don't worry so much about perfection. Just speak English. Whatever we do, whether it's playing drums, whether it's learning a new skill, whatever it is, when you do that particular thing, you will make mistakes. It's going to happen. It happens with absolutely everything. But for some reason, we can't accept that with English. We put our English at such a high standard that we don't allow for mistakes. And that's something that's really got to change, because we allow mistakes in other things. If I make a mistake with the drums, okay, I'll just get over it. But you make a mistake when you've been learning a language, oof, that's a really bad thing. So let's try and change that mentality. If you are someone that is I get a lot of emails saying, look, I can understand English fine. I can listen, but I just can't speak it. Well, often that's because you're not speaking it. And I know that sounds a bit annoying, but even if you feel like you don't have the skills, just get speaking. Ooh, very unprofessional. Oh, there's my second battery notification. So I do apologize for that. But we're wrapping up anyway. We're nearly at the end of my natter. But yeah, even just get speaking. Whatever you can do to just get speaking. Watch my videos on YouTube. I have lessons where you can repeat after me and just practice speaking. But if you are struggling with your speaking skills, please just push yourself. Really just go for it. Don't worry about perfection. Just get the mouth moving. Get the muscles doing what they need to do to speak in English, and you will improve, okay? But don't worry about mistakes. Don't worry about perfection. Just forget about it. Just get out speaking, okay? Start at the beginning. Maybe that's just some simple sentence structures, but just constantly keep on pushing yourself. Don't get content with your current level of English. But there you go. That's the podcast for this week. As I say, a little bit random. Hopefully got something very interesting for next week. But you know what I'm going to say now. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate your support. It still surprises me that people tune into this podcast every week. And I really hope it's helping you just to learn something new in English, but just also enjoy the English language. But yeah, okay. Thank you so much. I will see you all very soon. Have a great week, and I'll catch up, next Sunday. All right. Have a good one, guys.